हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वतीपतये हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Dhyana Shloka. Om मौनव्याख्या प्रकटितः परब्रह्मतत्त्वं युवानं वर्षिष्ठान्ते वसदृशगणैः आवृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दरूपं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीढे वटविटपि समीपे भूमिभागे निषण्णम् सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारहात् त्रिभुवनगुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जननमरणदुःखच्छेददक्षं नमामि। चित्रं वटतरोर्मूले वृद्धा शिष्या गुरुर्युवा गुरोस्तु मौनं व्याख्यानं शिष्यास्तु छिन्न संशयाः। निधये सर्वविद्यानां विषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Hari Om. We'll chant the shlokas from the beginning. Vishwam darpana drishyamana nagari tulyam nijantargatam pashyannatmani mayaya bahiribodh bhutam yatha nitraya yat sakshat kurute prabodha samaye स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये। बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राग्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतम् मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयः स्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकमसत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत् साक्षात्करणात् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नानाचित्रकटोदरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुराधिकरणद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तमनुभाति तत्समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। देहं प्राणमपीन्द्रियाण्यपि चलां बुद्धिं च शून्यं विदुः स्त्रीबालान्दजडोपमास्त्वहमिति भ्रान्तावृशं वादिनः मायाशक्तिविलासकल्पितमहाव्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। Hari Om. We are seeing this Shri Dakshinamurty Stotram in which Bhagwan Shri Adi Shankaracharya ji does namaskar to Shri Dakshinamurty Bhagwan, who blesses his disciples through, he imparts that knowledge of that Supreme Brahma through silence or or through just Chin Mudra, or through the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, and he dispels all the doubts of the disciples and they gain abidance in their Supreme Self. So this world which we see is just the expression of that self, the Supreme Self. But due to ignorance, I really don't know myself, and I have confusion regarding myself and the world. So due to this confusion, I identify with this body, mind, intellect, senses, and considers them as my own self. Some people identify with the body and consider the body itself as self. Some identify with the life and think that the life is the self. In this way, we identify with the senses or with the mind and consider them as the self. And there are those who consider that everything is shunya only. There is nothing. There is total absence of everything. Nothing exists. So all this is happening in this world, which is expression of that Maya, the Shakti. So Maya Shakti Vilas, the whole world is Maya Shakti Vilas, the play of Maya. And we, due to our own ignorance, get deluded. Maya doesn't delude us, but our own ignorance, due to our own ignorance, we get deluded, seeing this play of Maya. So the delusion is caused by our own ignorance. Maya is Bhagwan's Shakti, and Maya blesses us to come out of this samsara. So Bhagwan, by the blessings through this Maya, takes us out of this samsara. So as long as we are having this ignorance, we experience our bondage and we experience sorrow, pain, and different types of sufferings. So in order to become free of this, we have to recognize our own self as we are. So what is this self? Who am I? Who exactly am I? That we have to recognize with the help of our teachers' guidance. So here in this sixth mantra, sixth shloka, that Supreme Self is indicated with taking the reference of our deep sleep. That Supreme Self is indicated. So let us chant this shloka. Rahu grasta divakarendu sadrusho maya samachhadanat sanmatra karanopasambharanato yo bhut sushupta puman pragaswapsamiti prabodha samaye yapratyabhiඥāyate tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Once more. Rahu grasta divakarendu sadrusho maya samachhadanat sanmatra karanopasambharanato yo bhut sushupta puman pragaswapsamiti prabodha samaye yapratyabhiඥāyate tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Here, Bhagwan describes the deep sleep state. See, we have this experience of Jagrat Avastha, we have the experience of Swapna Avastha, and we have the experience of Sushupti Avastha. These are the three avasthas which we experience and we know about them. So when our senses are fully functioning, and through these senses, when we are conscious, when we pursue the world outside, when we gain the knowledge of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha from this external world, then that is our waking state, Jagrat Avastha. So we interact with this world, our senses are active, our karmendriyas are active, our mind, intellect are active, chitta, ahankara are active. So we continue to interact with this world. But just as our body is made up of matter, this mind, intellect, senses are also made up of matter only, of Prakriti. So after some time, due to constant activity, the senses get tired and they withdraw to their source. And what is their source? The mind. So our senses withdraw into the mind. But the mind is subtler than the senses, so the mind is not so tired. Mind continues to function, but the senses are withdrawn. So in that condition, we become unaware of the world outside. But since the mind is active, and mind has got all the samskars, the impressions which are created during our waking state, and also the impressions from our past lives. All these impressions, they, according to what you call as Bhagwan wills, these impressions get expressed, and we see them. So the vasanas of the mind gets expressed, and we experience them. And that is what is called dream. So the dream world, the dream body, the dream senses, the dream pranas, everything is a projection of the mind only. The impressions of the mind, they alone are functioning there, expressing there. Even the pranas, we experience a body in the dream, and we also experience the body moving around, breathing. No? So sometimes we are running in our dream and we are so exhausted, we breathe very heavily in our dream. But the physical body lying on the bed is not breathing heavily. So the pancha pranas which are functioning in the dream, they are also from the impressions of the mind only. Also the indriyas, I open my eyes and see the world in the dream. but this physical body is lying down on the bed. The physical organ of seeing are closed. So there is another body and another set of organs, etc., are projected in the dream, all from the vasanas, from the impressions in the mind. Sometimes we experience something very strange also in the dream which we have never seen before. So the Shastras also say the dream is like a connection between this world and the other world also. Sometimes we get connected to some higher or different world, and that is expressed in the dream. So mind remains active. The same mind which is available in the waking, same mind is active in the dream. And the interesting thing is that during the waking, we experience a lot of restriction to our thinking, etc., because of the presence of this outer world. Everything is follows the laws of the outer world. So there is some cause and effect and systematic experience of things are there in the waking world. Suppose I travel, then it will take appropriate time to reach the destination and all, according to whatever rules, laws are there. But in dream, since the indriyas are also mental projection, all these laws and dreams in dream doesn't match the laws of the waking world. I might be traveling by bus in my dream, and suddenly I find myself in an aeroplane. Suddenly I find myself swimming somewhere. So there is no cause and effect in the sense systematic cause and effect relationship between the events which happen in dream. It is all happening in a very strange way. Sometimes I defy the gravitational law and other laws which are observed in the waking. They are defied in dream. Many times we experience ourselves flying and we don't even question or find it strange. We just fly. So this is another very strange experience which we have of dream. That is also my own experience. And when I wake up from my dream, I remember the dream experience as belonging to me only. I don't say that, oh, I was sleeping and I don't know who was dreaming. I know that I was asleep and I was dreaming. The one who is awake now, the same person was present in the dream and experiencing the dream. In the waking, if I do something, then I say, I am doing it. I am going there, I am thinking, I am doing. But about dream, generally we talk about dream as I saw the dream. I don't say I did the dream, I just say I saw. मैंने सपना देखा. So it is just presented in front of me as though, and I just see. Just like you go to see a cinema, you don't produce that cinema. Whatever is already produced is projected there on the screen, and you just see it. Similarly, we just see the dream. So mind remains active in the dream. But after some time, after being active, the mind also gets tired. That's what the Shastras say. The mind also gets tired, and then mind also withdraws and goes back to its source. The mind goes into, becomes what you call, in scriptures they talk about the mind rest in the pranas. There are various nadis are there. There is one nadi called Hita nadi, which pervades this body. So the mind or antakarana rest in that nadi, means the mind rest in the pranas. It is no longer active. Mind means the antakarana, the mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. The senses are already withdrawn into the mind. And the mind also, antakaran also becomes dormant, inactive. They just rest. And such a state is experienced by us as sushupti avastha. When the mind is not functioning, the indriyas are not functioning, we experience that as sushupti avastha. Means we call it as sushupti avastha. We call it when we wake up. When we wake up, we say, I was asleep. I slept happily. So I talk about that avastha when I wake up. But when that avastha is happening, then there is no experience of any kind. There is no active experience of any kind happening there. So what is this sushupti avastha? And who remains there? That question comes to our mind. Who is there? Then again, this question is also there that when I am totally withdrawn from the physical body, then who is taking care of this physical body? Then how the pranas are functioning? When we see a person who is asleep, we see the breathing goes on. The breathing goes on, and one is all the digestion and all those also goes on. Even when a person is in, when a person becomes unconscious or in a coma, the breathing goes on. So many questions are there about this dream, about deep sleep, which is so mysterious. And who is that who remains there? Because when I wake up from my deep sleep, when I am in the waking state, I say, I slept. I claim that experience to be mine only. I say, I was asleep. I slept happily. So I know that even when the mind was not functioning, the senses were not functioning, I know somehow that I was present, that I had not disappeared, that I was still there. Nobody says that I was not there in deep sleep. But exactly who am I? In what way I was there? Nothing can be said about it. however much I try to think and try to investigate, I don't get proper answer. See, even in the field of science, they try to understand what is this sleep. Science has got its own way and own system of finding what is sleep. And in order to know about sleep, they check the physical body. They, with some instruments and all this, they check the the heartbeat and the pulse rate and all those things, and also the activities, the electrical impulses or activities happening in our brain. So the science, what it does, it just tries to perceive this body itself, physical body of a person who is asleep. But whatever they talk about sleep, they're talking about the body only. They talk about the various different types of sleep, REM and all, and the different waves are there in the brain when a person is dreaming or when a person is in deep sleep. But that is just an objective understanding of the body. It doesn't reveal anything about the sleep. It's like some person is there staying in a house, but we have not seen that person. We only see that house. So during the day, we see the doors and windows opening, and then in the evening, we see the light illumining the house. Then, after some time, the lights are switched off, the windows, doors are shut. But there is a person who is staying there inside, who is not seen. So, just by looking at the house and measuring the windows and doors and how much they are open and all, we will not know anything about that person. Similarly, measuring the brain waves and heartbeats and pulse rate and blood pressure and all those things, we will not know about the deep sleep. It's the most mysterious. So, but why it is revealed here? Because only when we understand the secret of our deep sleep, we will understand the secret of our own self. When we unravel the mystery of deep sleep, we will be able to unravel our own mystery. Otherwise, we will become history only. But by ourselves, it is very difficult to unravel this mystery. We have to take support of the Shastras also. So one of the things the Shastras tell us to do in order to understand this mystery of the deep sleep is to do the viveka between the seer and the seen, between the knower and the known. So let us do some thinking in this direction to understand this mystery. Or before that, let me give the meaning of this verse, and then we will think about it in detail. So here it is said, कि राहु ग्रस्त दिवाकरेन्दु सदृशो माया समाच्छादनात् सन्मात्र करणोपसंहरणतो यो भूत सुषुप्त पुमान. This puman means I, the Purusha, I, the seer, I, the experiencer, I, that Atma, who is expressing through this body, that I, it's called Puman, he experiences this Sushupti Avastha. Yo abhut Sushuptaha, he becomes Sushuptaha. He becomes the sleeper, deep sleeper. But what does he become there? Sanmatraha. He remains there as Sanmatra. Sanmatra means as existence itself. When Karanaha upasamharanata, when all the senses are withdrawn, not only senses but even the antakarana is withdrawn, and when he is in that deep sleep, this Puman, this person, I, just remains as Sanmatra. Sanmatra means pure existence itself, as existence. Nothing more can be said about it other than that I remain there as existence. To make us understand, Bhagwan gives a very beautiful metaphor here. He says, Rahu grasta divakarendu sadrusho maya samachhadanat. This deep sleep happens when, as though the self is enveloped by Maya, Bhagwan Shakti, Maya, which has got three gunas, Sattva gun, Rajogun, Tamogun, as though envelops the self temporarily, and one experiences deep sleep. How? Rahu grasta divakarendu sadrusho. Here the metaphor is given like the Rahu engulfing the sun and the moon. See, we have this most fascinating event happening in nature, what we call the eclipse, the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. In a very poetic way, the Shastras describe that there is a Rakshasa called Rahu who only has got his head, his lower body is cut, and he is in space, and once in a while he swallows the moon. And when he swallows the moon, there is this lunar eclipse. But since he doesn't have the body, after he swallows the moon comes out of his from his mouth. And once in a while he also swallows the sun, and there is solar eclipse. This is just a poetic way of presenting it. The Shastras, they know the structure of our solar system also. The Puranas even mention the distance between the Earth and the other planets and all. So this Rahu and Ketu are mentioned as the grahas. See, our Shastras, they talk about Navagrahas. In that Navagraha, even the sun and moon are included, and Rahu and Ketu are also included. So the translation of Graha is not planets. Graha means that which holds, that which has got effect on us. That is called Graha. So this Rahu and Ketu are actually physically, actually they are just the shadows of the moon and the earth. Shadows of the moon and the earth. When the moon comes directly in between the earth and the sun, then it blocks the sun and its shadow falls on earth. And that is when we see the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse is nothing but when the moon comes in between our vision. From earth, we can't see the sun. Though the sun is very, very large, extremely large, but it's very far away. And the moon is very small compared to the sun, but it is closer to the earth. So, from earth, when we look at the moon, the size of the moon and the size of the sun, they look of the same size, more or less. They look of same size, same diameter as a beautiful disk. So when the moon comes in between the earth and the sun, exactly in the same line, then it blocks the sun completely. This is the most amazing thing. The moon, the size of the moon and the distance from the earth and all is so strategic that it blocks the sun completely. And it's the most fascinating event which we experience in nature, the solar eclipse. So during the daytime it happens and we see the entire environment changing. The light from the sun doesn't reach the earth, and when the moon is exactly blocking the sun, the whole environment, whole place looks like night only. Everything becomes dark. Then again we start seeing the disk of that sun. Slowly the sun comes out. So this phenomena we see, and not only the solar eclipse, but we also experience the lunar eclipse. When the earth comes in between the sun and the moon, we experience the lunar eclipse. So lunar eclipse happen on Purnima, and solar eclipse on Amavasya. So this is a natural phenomena which is happening in nature, But this is taken to explain what happens in our sleep, what happens in our dream. See, the Atma, our own self, which is expressing in this body, is like the sun. So, just as during the eclipse, it gets blocked. Similarly, when we go to sleep, it is as though covered in darkness. It gets as though covered by the tamogun, and it doesn't get expressed in the mind, in the intellect, etc. But it doesn't remain like that. Again, it gets revealed when we wake up. So this is from our standpoint. But if you try to understand this phenomena from the standpoint of the sun, then as far as the sun is concerned, there is no eclipse for the sun. If you ask the sun that, oh, you are in eclipse and all, the sun will not accept it. Only when we when we are on earth and when we look at the sun from here, we experience that eclipse. So our standpoint, when we are on earth, we experience that. Similarly, when we are identified with our body, with respect to our body, gross physical body, we experience the Jagrat Avastha, the Swapna Avastha, and the Sushupti Avastha. When I am expressing through this body, I experience the three avasthas. But as far as that Supreme Self is concerned, it doesn't have these three avasthas. So here Bhagavan gives that example, this metaphor of this Rahu, of the solar and lunar eclipse. So Rahu krasta diva karendu sadrusho maya samachhadanat sanmatra karanopasambharanato yo bhut sushupta puma. So just as when the Rahu swallows the sun and the moon, there is this eclipse. Similarly, when tamogun, this maya, swallows as though the self, then we experience what we call the Sushupti Avastha. And when at that time, we just become that pure existence, we remain there as existence itself. And when we wake up from that Sushupti, Pragaswapsamite Prabodha Samaye means when we wake up from that deep sleep, and when we think about that deep sleep, then what do I say? What experience? What is my understanding of the deep sleep? I say Pragaswapsamiti, that I was asleep. I say that I was asleep. I know that I was asleep. This is also this whole deep sleep is very mysterious. We won't be able to understand it completely in one go. slowly the mystery will start getting revealed. So when we wake up, we say that I was asleep. But who is saying it? The one who is now in the waking state, he says, identified with the body, identified with my mind, identified with my intellect. I try to make sense of that deep sleep. And I say that I did not see anything, I did not experience anything. I was asleep. And I also say I was happy. I was happily sleeping. So everyone says the same thing. It's as though a universal experience. We say that I slept happily. I did not know anything. That's what I say. That I did not know anything. And I slept happily. So I give one positive statement and negative statement also about that sleep. I slept happily is a positive statement. And I did not know anything is a negative statement. So I say that I have experienced happiness there, but I did not know anything. And this is what I expressed when I am awake. But exactly what happens in that deep sleep? The mind is not functioning, the intellect is not functioning, the senses are not functioning. And the Shastra says that I remain there as San Matra because that is my supreme nature. The Upanishads say that I become one with that Brahma. Every time I am in deep sleep, I am one with Brahma. There remains no division of any kind. When I wake up and talk about it, I talk by identifying with my mind, my intellect. So identity itself was not there. The language of knowing and not knowing belongs to the buddhi, not to that Atma. But identified with the buddhi, I say I did not know anything. I did not know anything. Just like seeing or not seeing is the function of the eyes. Similarly, knowing and not knowing is a function of the buddhi. So when I wake up, I say I did not know anything. That is really not a completely true statement. Because in that deep sleep, there was neither knowing nor not knowing. The activity of knowing and not knowing, both this activity were not happening because the buddhi was not there. So there was no knowing nor not knowing. And we have seen those who have attended my Kenopanishad class, we have seen that Brahma is indicated as that which is different from the known and beyond the unknown. Anyatra eva viditat, aviditat adhi. Different from the known, beyond the unknown. In deep sleep, there is no knowing, nor there is not knowing. And that is actually happens only with respect to Brahma. So in deep sleep, I am one with Brahma. I don't know anything because there is nothing other than Brahma to be known. There is no duality of any kind. So Sanmatraha, one remains there as Sat. Sat is that Brahma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Sanmatraha. But then again, we come in the waking state. Again, we identify with our body, our mind, our senses. And we talk about that deep sleep with respect to our avidya and our adhyas. And we say that, yes, I was asleep. I did not know anything. I slept happily. But I know that I myself was there in deep sleep, and that same entity is present now. The entity who was in deep sleep and the one who is now is same. That's called pratyabhijna. It's a very beautiful word. When I wake up, I have pratyabhijna, means recognition. Pratyabhijna means recognition. Just like I meet my friend after many years, he has lost some of his weight. His hairs have turned grey. He looks different. But then when I meet him, I recognize him as the same person, my friend only. I don't recognize him as someone else. I know that it is the same person, though he appears totally different now from how he appeared few years ago. That's called recognition. Recognition is we see the one object or thing which we have seen before, and we recognize it to be the same. So same thing happened to this self. When we wake up, I experience myself now, and I also know that the one who was asleep is the same person who is there present now. That's called pratyabhijna. Recognizing myself as one who was asleep is present now also. So pragaswapsamiti prabodha samaya yap pratyabhijnayate. So this pratyabhijna, when we gain properly, when we recognize this self properly, then a lot of the mystery will get solved. See, we have to do a little bit more thinking on this shloka. Now our time is up. So more about this we will see in our next class on Friday. But I request all of you to again listen to this pravachan. And very important, you please reflect, think. Think about your own experience of waking, dream, and deep sleep. Just think. Think to understand. Just think to, because it is your own experience. So just contemplate and try to understand. So when we again talk about it next time, you will be in a better position to understand what is happening, what the Shastras are revealing. So that we will see in our class coming Friday. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana. And we see you again on Friday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Boliye Siya Ramchandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.